And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. In this episode, CompTIA A Plus masterclass for the 1201 exam. Let's tap in. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Technology Tap, the podcast where we make technology understandable, practical, and career focused. And we also talk about sometimes the history of computers, and also we talk about scams, which is one of my favorite topics. I'm Professor J. Rod, cybersecurity professor, CompTIA certified instructor, and someone who has helped hundreds of students prepare for certification exams and launch careers in IT. When you're studying for the CompTIA 1201 exam, taking an IT class, or changing careers, or simply curious about how computers work, you are in the right place. Today's episode is the beginning of the complete CompTIA A Plus masterclass. Over the next several weeks, we'll break down topics that appear on the exam or explaining why they matter in the real world. This isn't about memorizing answers. It's about learning how to think like a technician. And if you think like a technician, you'll pass the exam. And more importantly, you'll succeed on the job. Before we begin, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone studying for the CompTIA A+. And you'll also find my CompTIA A+ exam book and study guide on my link tree, which will be in the show notes. All right, let's get started. People often ask me, Professor, do I really need the CompTIA A+? And the short answer is no, you don't need it. But it can make getting your first IT job much easier. Imagine you're hiring two people. Both have no professional IT experience. One says, I like computers. The other one says, I've earned my CompTIA A+ certification. Who will you interview first? Exactly. The certification tells employers that you learned industry standards and have invested time in developing foundational technical skills. This is why so many entry-level positions list CompTIA as a preferred or even required. These jobs include help desk technicians, desktop support, IT support specialist, computer technician, field service tech, and technical support representative. The certification isn't this finish line. It's the starting point. Here's something many students misunderstand. The exam isn't testing you on whatever you can memorize facts. It is not a memorization exam, right? And that's one thing that the student forgets. It's testing whatever you understand technology well enough to solve problems. For example, the exam probably won't ask, what is RAM? Instead, it might ask, a user's computer becomes extremely slow while running multiple applications. Which upgrade will most likely improve performance? Now you have to think, is it storage, CPU, power supply, or RAM? That's what technicians do every day. They troubleshoot. The CompTIA A+ exam requires logical thinking. Here's the biggest secret I teach my students. Stop asking what is the right answer and start asking what problem is happening. Every hardware component exists for a reason. If you understand the purpose of each component, the questions become much easier. Technicians don't memorize, they diagnose. Imagine visiting a doctor. You say, my arm hurts. The doctor doesn't immediately prescribe medication. First, they ask questions. Where does it hurt? When did it start? Did you fall? Can you move it? IT professionals do exactly the same thing. Users describe the symptoms, technicians identify cause. That mindset alone can dramatically improve your score. Let's simplify computers. Every computer performs 4 basic functions: input, processing, storage, output. Think about a smoothie. The ingredients are the input, the blender processes, the pitcher stores it, and the glass is the output. Computers operate very similar. You type on a keyboard, you click on a mouse, you use a microphone. Those are inputs. The CPU processes the information, RAM temporarily stores active work, the SSD permanently store files, and the monitor displays the results. Once you understand the flow, computers become much easier to understand. Let's meet the major hardware components. First, the motherboard. Think of the motherboard as the city's highway system. Every component communicates through it. Without the motherboard, nothing works together. Next, the CPU. The CPU is the brain. Every calculation, every instructions, every click, the CPU processes it. Next, RAM. RAM is the temporary memory. Think of it as your desk. The larger your desk, the more projects you can work on simultaneously. When the power turns off, RAM forgets everything. That's why it's called volatile memory. Next, storage. Hard drives and SSDs permanently store data. This is your filing cabinet. Even after shutting down the computer, your files remain. Then we have the power supply. This job is simple. Convert AC electricity from the wall into DC electricity that computer components can use. Without clean, stable power, nothing functions reliable. Finally, output devices. Monitors, printers, speakers, these communicate information back to the user. One exam objective compares desktops and laptops. Desktop computers generally offer more performance, more upgrades, lower costs, better cooling. Laptops offer mobility, battery operation, integrated display, keyboard, smaller sizes. If someone says, I travel every week, would you recommend a desktop? Probably not. Always match technology to the user's needs. Let's imagine your first day working at a help desk. A customer calls. My computer won't turn on. Many beginners immediately think the motherboard is dead. Not so fast. Experienced technician asks questions. Is the power cable plugged in? Yeah, you may see that and say, wow, that's a dumb question to ask. But you have to ask. And that's how you do it. Right? It may be simply that it's unplugged. Is the outlet working? Are there lights? Any fan movement? Any beep codes? Was there a recent power outage? Troubleshooting means eliminating simple causes before assuming expensive failures. CompTIA loves these questions. Always begin with the obvious. It's always do the simple stuff first and then start doing hard stuff. Exam tip. Never replace expensive parts first. Always verify power, connections, settings, cables. Simple user mistakes. You'll be amazed how many broken computers simply have loose cables. All right, let's practice. Question 1. Which component performs calculations? A, RAM, B, CPU, C, power supply, or D, SSD? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. And the answer is B, CPU. The CPU executes instructions and performs calculations. Question 2. Which storage loses data when the power turns off? A, SSD, B, hard drive, C, RAM, or D, flash drive? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. The answer is C, RAM. RAM is volatile memory. Here's question 3. Which component distributes communications between hardware devices? A, motherboard, B, monitor, C, power supply, D, keyboard. The answer is the motherboard. Every major component communicates through this. One mistake students make is that they read the textbook once. That's not enough. Here's a strategy I recommend. Day 1, read the material. Day 2, watch a video. Day 3, explain it to someone else. Day 4, answer practice questions. Day 5, review your mistakes. And if you can teach a topic, you can understand it. If you only recognize it, you probably don't. One of my former students failed the A+ exam on the first attempt. Not that he wasn't intelligent, he memorized every definition, but he couldn't troubleshoot. After changing his study strategy, he stopped asking, what is this component? Instead, he's asked, what problems does this component solve? He passed both A+ exams. A few weeks after that, he landed his first help desk position. Today, he's a system administrator. The lesson, don't memorize technology. You got to understand it. All right, so far we've learned why A+ matters, how employers use certifications, and how technicians think. These concepts are the foundations of everything else you'll learn throughout the CompTIA A+ certification. When you open up a desktop computer, the motherboard is the large printed circuit board mounted to the case. It contains thousands of tiny electrical pathways called traces that carry data and power between devices. Modern motherboards are designed for specific processors, memory types, and expansion technologies. That's why you can't simply install any CPU or any RAM into any motherboard. Compatibility matters. CompTIA expects you to recognize common motherboard sizes. They call form factors. The three you'll see most often are the ATX, the standard desktop size, multiple PCIe expansion slots, 4 or more RAM slots, or 2 or more RAM slots because they don't have a lot nowadays, and plenty of room for upgrades. Micro ATX, smaller than ATX, fewer expansion slots, popular in office computers. And mini ITX, very compact, uses 1 PCIe slot, excellent for small form factor PCs and home theater systems. Here's an exam tip. If the question mentions a small computer with limited expansion, think mini ITX. If maximum expandability is required, think ATX. All right, CPU, the central processing unit. Performs calculations and execute instructions. Every time you open a browser, launch Microsoft Word, watch a YouTube video, or play a video game, the CPU processes millions or even billions of instructions every second. Modern processors contain billions of microscopic transistors. The more efficiently these transistors work together, the faster your computer performs. CompTIA frequently asks you about the CPU characteristics. Let's break them down. Clock speed. Clock speed is measured in gigahertz. This indicates how many cycles the processor performs each second. Generally, the higher the clock speed, the faster the processing. However, clock speed isn't everything. A new processor running at 3.2 gigahertz may outperform an older processor running at 4.0 gigahertz because of architectural improvements. Never compare CPUs using clock speed alone. Years ago, processors only have one core. Today, CPU commonly have dual cores, quad cores, 6 cores, 8, 12, 16, or more. Each core can process instructions independently. Think of cores like workers in a warehouse. One worker can package boxes. 8 workers can package many more simultaneously. That's why modern software performs better with multiple cores. Many processors support hyper-threading or simultaneous multi-threading. One physical core appears as 2 logical processors. This allows the CPU to handle additional tasks more efficiently. On the exam, don't confuse cores with threads. One of the most important beginner mistakes is assuming every processor fits every motherboard. Not true. Processors require specific sockets. Examples include the Intel, they use LGA 1700 or the LGA 1851. AMD uses the AM4 and the AM5. If the socket doesn't match, the processor cannot be installed. Always verify compatibility before purchasing hardware. And the most important guide from that is your motherboard book, the motherboard guide. Your motherboard, everything comes off from the motherboard, right? If it's compatible with the motherboard, then you can install it. The chipset acts like a traffic manager. It determines supported CPUs, memory compatibility, storage options, USB support, PCIe generation, expansion capabilities. A budget chipset may support fewer USB ports and limited overclocking. A premium chipset often supports faster storage, additional PCIe lanes, and advanced features. Cache memory is extremely fast memory located inside or very close to the CPU. Instead of retrieving frequently used information from RAM repeatedly, the processor stores it in cache. Think of cache like keeping frequently used tools on your workbench rather than walking to the garage every time. There are several cache levels. L1 is the fastest and the smallest, L2 is larger, slightly slower, and L3, shared among CPU cores, is the largest. The closer the cache is to CPU core, the faster it operates. RAM temporarily stores programs and files that are actively being used. Imagine writing a research paper. The SSD stores the document permanently, the hard drive, right? RAM stores the work while you're currently editing. Once the computer shuts down, RAM is erased. That's why RAM is called volatile memory. Current recommendations are approximately 4 gigs for very basic web browsing, 8 gigs for entry-level office productivity, and 16 gigs for recommended for most users, 32 for gaming or gaming editing or virtual machines, and 64 gigs or more for more professional workloads. I have 128 gigs. CompTIA doesn't expect exact numbers. Instead, understand how RAM affects performance. Modern systems primarily use DDR4 and DDR5. DDR4 offers higher speed, greater bandwidth, improved efficiency, low power consumptions. Remember, DDR4 and DDR5 are not interchangeable. The motherboard determines which memory type you must install. Doesn't matter that this is what you want. Oh, I want DDR5. If your motherboard only takes DDR4, guess what? You're getting DDR4, or you're getting nothing, or you get a new motherboard. Many motherboards support single channel, dual channel, quad channel. Dual channel memory improves performance by allowing the CPU to communicate with 2 memory modules simultaneously. If the motherboard manual recommends installing RAMs into slots A2 and B2, follow the manual. Improper installation may reduce performance. Every computer starts the same way. You press the power button, what happens first? The operating system? No. The firmware starts first. Older systems use BIOS, basic input and output systems. Modern computers use UEFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. UEFI offers faster boot times, larger drive support, mouse interface, better security, secure boot, network capabilities, and CompTIA strongly emphasizes UEFI. POST. POST stands for Power On Self-Test. Every time a computer starts, it checks CPU, RAM, keyboard, storage, video. If something fails, the motherboard may generate beep codes, LED indicators, diagnostic codes. Understanding POST helps technicians troubleshoot systems that won't boot. The small coin cell battery on the motherboard powers CMOS memory. It stores date and time, BIOS settings, boot order. If the battery dies, symptoms include incorrect date, incorrect time, BIOS reset, boot configuration loss. Fortunately, replacing the battery is inexpensive. It's one of those batteries that your grandfather uses for his hearing aid. You can buy it at CVS. Common BIOS settings include the boot order, enabling virtualization, enabling TPM, secure boot, CPU settings, memory settings, date and time. Never change BIOS settings unless you understand their purpose. A user reports, my computer keeps saying no boot device found. Many new technicians immediately assume the hard drive failed. But experienced technicians investigate. Questions include, did someone replace hardware? Did the BIOS reset? Is the drive detected? Is the SATA cable connected? Is the boot order correct? The issue could be as simple as the computer trying to boot from a USB flash drive. Always troubleshoot logically. Here's a quick knowledge check. Question 1. Which component permanently stores BIOS settings? A. SSD, B. CMOS battery, C. CPU, or D. RAM? Give it a couple of seconds. The answer is B. CMOS battery. Question 2. Which firmware replaced BIOS on modern systems? A. FAT32, B. GPT, C. UEFI, or D. SATA? I'll give you a couple of seconds. The answer is UEFI. What does POST do? A. Install Windows, B. Checks hardware during startup, C. Formats the SSD, or D. Download drivers? I'll give you a couple of seconds. The answer is B. Checks hardware during startup. Question 4. Which memory loses its content when the power is removed? A. SSD, B. Flash drive, C. RAM, D. Optical disk? Give you a couple of seconds. The answer is C. RAM. All right, whenever you see a motherboard question, ask yourself, did this involve compatibility, power, memory, firmware, startup, expansion? CompTIA questions usually revolve around solving one of these problems. Don't focus on memorizing dozens of model numbers. Focus on understanding what each component does. Storage. When you're installing Windows, replacing a failed hard drive, upgrading a laptop, recovering files, or troubleshooting a computer that won't boot, understanding storage technologies is essential. Why storage matters. Imagine you buy a brand new computer. It has 32 gigs of RAM, a powerful CPU, and an excellent graphic card, but there is no storage device. What happens? Nothing. The computer has nowhere to store Windows, the application, your pictures, documents, videos. Storage is your computer's long-term memory. Unlike RAM, storage keeps your information even after the power is turned off. That's why we call it non-volatile storage. Let's start with traditional hard drives. HDD stores data on spinning magnetic platters. Imagine an old vinyl record. Now imagine several of those records stacked inside a sealed metal case. A tiny read-write head floats just above the platter, reading and writing magnetic data as the platter spins. Typical speeds include 5,400 revolutions per minute, 7,200 RPMs, and 10,000 RPMs. RPM stands for revolutions per minute. Generally, higher RPMs means faster access time. What are the advantages of our old hard drive? Hard drives are inexpensive, excellent for storing large amounts of data, great for backups, and common in servers and archival storage. A 4 terabyte hard drive often costs less than a 4 terabyte SSD drive. What are the disadvantages? Because hard drives contain moving parts, they are slower, they generate more heat, they use more power, they're more likely to be damaged if dropped. Mechanical failure is also more common over time. Solid state drives. Now let's compare that to SSDs. SSDs contain no moving parts. Instead of magnetic platters, SSD use flash memory chips. Think of them as a giant USB flash drives with much faster controllers. Because nothing moves, data is accessed almost instantly. Windows boots much faster, programs launch quicker, file transfers improve dramatically. Battery life often increases in laptops because SSD consumes less power. Suppose I asked you to retrieve a book. Scenario 1, the book is already on your desk. Scenario 2, the book is stored in a warehouse several miles away. Which one is faster? Well, the book on your desk. That's essentially what SSD does. Hard drive must physically move a read-write head to the correct location. SSD simply access memory electronically. No waiting for a spinning disk. Many SSDs connect using SATA. SATA stands for Serial ATA. SATA 3 supports approximately 6 gigabits per second. Real-world speeds are usually around 550 megabytes per second. Whether you're using 2.5-inch SSD or 2.5-inch HDD, both typically connect using SATA. NVMe drives. Now we reach the fastest customer storage, NVMe. That stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express. Instead of communicating through SATA, NVMe communicates through PCI Express lanes. The results, much higher performance. Many NVMe drives exceed 3,500 megabits per second, which is 35 gigs High-end drives exceed 7,000 megabytes per second. That's over 10 times faster than many SATA SSD. M.2 is not NVMe, one of the biggest exam traps. Students often think M.2 means NVMe. Not necessarily. M.2 refers only to the physical connector. Some M.2 drives use SATA, others use NVMe. Yeah, you can have an M.2 thing or slot or equipment. That's your antenna for your wireless, in your laptop, your NIC card, right? It could be M.2 chip, and it's for your wireless. Always read the specification. CompTIA loves asking these questions. You commonly encounter 2.5-inch SSD, 2.5-inch HDD, 3.5-inch desktop HDD, M.2, U.2 for primary for the enterprises. Knowing which system supports each form factor is important. Manufacturers measure storing using gigabytes, terabytes, sometimes petabytes in enterprise environments. Today, it's common to see 5, 12 gigabytes SSD, 1 terabyte, 2, 3, and 4. The right choice depends on the user's needs. Let's think like technicians. A gamer, recommend large NVMe SSD. A photographer, we recommend a large SSD plus backup storage. A business server, multiple SSD in RAID. A college student, perhaps a 1 terabyte SSD. Always recommend technology based on the customer's workflow. Partitions. Before Windows can use a new drive, it must be partitioned. Think of partition like dividing a large filing cabinet into separate drawers. One drawer might contain Windows, another stores backup, another contains recovery tools. Even though it's one physical drive, the operating system sees multiple logical drives. GPT versus MBR. CompTIA expects you to know 2 partition type styles. MBR, master boot record, older standard, supports up to 2 terabytes, 4 primary partitions. GPT, GUID partition table, modern standard, supports large drives, many partitions, and improved reliability. Works with UEFI. Whenever possible, choose GPT. File systems. File systems organize information on storage devices. Without one, the operating system cannot locate files. Common files include NTFS, FAT32, and exFAT. NTFS is Windows default. It supports permissions, encryptions, compressions, large files, and journaling. Most Windows installation uses NTFS. FAT32, it's older, highly compatible, works with many devices. However, the maximum file size is 4 gigs. That's why large videos often cannot be copied to FAT32 flash drives. You have to reformat the flash drive in order to be NTFS. exFAT, designed for flash storage, supports large files. Compatible with Windows, Mac OS, many cameras, portable storage devices. Excellent choice for external drives. Then you have RAID. RAID stands for Redundant Array of Independent Disk. RAID combines multiple drives for performance, redundancy, or both. Let's review the common levels. RAID Zivil stripping, minimum 2 drives. Benefits, very fast. Drawback, no redundancy. If either drive fails, everything is lost. Never use RAID zeros for important data. RAID 1, mirroring. Minimum 2 drives. Each drive stores identical data. If one drive dies, the other one is the one that continues functioning, right? Excellent for reliability. RAID 5 requires 3 or more drives, provide parity, fault tolerance, good storage efficiency, very common in business environment. RAID 10 combines RAID 1 and RAID 0. Excellent speed, excellent redundancy. Requires 4 hard drives minimum, often used for critical business. Backups. Here's an important lesson. RAID is not backup. Say it again. RAID is not backup. If ransomware encrypts every file, RAID faithfully copies the encrypted files. If someone accidentally deletes a folder, RAID mirrors the deletion. You still need backup. A very popular backup strategy is the 3-2-1 rule. You keep 3 copies of your data stored on 2 different types of media with 1 copy stored offsite. Example, original computer, external drive, cloud backup. Simple, efficient, highly recommended. Or user reports, my computer is making clicking noises. Think mechanical hard drive failure. Another says, my computer is working slow. Possible causes, low storage space, failing HDD, background processes, fragmented hard drive, malware, old hardware. A third user reports, the BIOS doesn't detect my SSD. Possible causes, loose SATA cable, power cable disconnected, incorrect BIOS, drive failure, and motherboard issues. Always troubleshoot logically. Let's do a quick knowledge check. Which storage device has no moving parts? A, DVD, B, HDD, C, SSD, or D, Blu-ray? Give it a couple of seconds. The answer is SSD. C, SSD, right? Question 2, which RAID level provides mirroring? A, RAID 0, B, RAID 1, C, RAID 5, D, RAID 10. Give it a couple of seconds. The answer is RAID 1. Question 3, which partition style supports modern UEFI systems? A, FAT32, B, NTFS, C, GPT, or D, MBR? Give it a couple of seconds. The answer is GPT. Which file systems limits files to approximately 4 gigs? A, NTFS, B, FAT32, C, GPT, or D, RAID? I'll give you a couple of seconds. The answer is FAT32. True or false? RAID replaces backups. False. RAID improves availability but does not protect against accidental deletion, malware, corruption, or ransomware. Whenever you see a storage question, ask yourself, is this about performance, reliability, capacity, compatibility, or recovery? Most CompTIA questions falls into one of those categories. If you understand the purpose of the technology, not just its name, you'll be much more confident on exam days. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode, right? We covered a lot of stuff. So if today's episode helped you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone beginning their IT journey. For more study tools, including my CompTIA A+ exam success, practice questions, exam strategies, and detailed study guide, visit my Linktree, my profile. I also have my book, CompTIA A+ Study Guide, which is also in my Linktree. Please follow me on TikTok. I'm at Professor J-Rod. And on Instagram, at Professor J-Rod. I have a CompTIA question of the day every day, so you can see me there. Until next time, keep learning, keep troubleshooting, and keep tapping into technology. I'm Professor J-Rod. This has been Technology Tap. I'll see you next week for part 2. This has been a presentation of Little Cha-Cha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at Professor J-Rod, that's J-R-O-D, or you can email me at ProfessorJrod, J-R-O-D, @gmail.com.